Continuing Chapter 3 of Ralph 124C41+. The momentum acquired by the pull of the former electromagnetic propels the car with ever-increasing speed, and by the time it has passed through 25 electromagnets, it has reached the speed of 300 miles an hour. It then continues at a steady pace till the end of the journey. As the car is held suspended entirely by magnetism, there is practically no friction whatsoever, and there are no wheels or rails. The only friction is from the air, and in order that this may not heat the car, it is equipped with a double wall, the space between the inner and outer walls being a vacuum. Consequently, the temperature inside is comfortable at all times. Once inside the car, we retire and sleep as soundly as in our swinging beds at home. There are no shocks, no noise, no rocking. All in all, the trip is so delightful that I must say the new tube is a decided success. Fine, fine, says Ralph enthusiastically. This new tube is going to revolutionize intercontinental travel. I suppose it won't be long now before we will regard our tedious 24-hour journeys as things of the past. Tell me, turning to Alice, who had been an interested listener, how did the trip impress you? Oh, she explained eagerly, it was delightful, so smooth and fast. I was excited. Really, it was over too soon. As she speaks, Ralph watches her with keen interest. Here is a girl who attracts him. Beneath the vivacity that so fascinates him, he senses the strength of her character and the depth of her mind. I am so glad to be in New York, she was saying. Do you know, this is my first visit here for ages. Why, the last time I can just barely remember. I was such a little girl. Father had been promising me a trip for years. With a laughingly reproachful glance at him, but it took an avalanche to get us started. I'm afraid I've been a neglectful father the last few years, but my work has kept me tied pretty close to home. I too am pleased to be here again, and my visit promises to be doubly interesting, for I understand that your great dog experiment will be completed today. I'm looking forward to receiving the earliest report of it at the hotel. But I can't permit you to spend your days here in a hotel, protested Ralph. Of course you must both be my guests. Yes, as they seemed about to demur. I won't take no for an answer. I am counting on showing you New York, and as for my experiment, it will give me great pleasure to have you both present in my lab this afternoon at 4. He presses a button. Peter will show you your rooms, and I'll send someone for your luggage. You are more than kind, says James. This is quite unexpected, but nonetheless delightful. As to attending the meeting in your lab this afternoon, it is an honor, sir, that I appreciate deeply. At this moment, Peter steps from the elevator, and Ralph, after giving him instructions to show his guests to their apartment and directions as to their bags, escorts them to the car and returns to the laboratory. Promptly at 4, Ralph greets a notable group of fellow scientists who have come from all corners of the planet to witness the completion of the famous dead-alive dog experiment. The host of reporters lines the walls. Alice and her father are seated near Ralph. A number of 20 scientists who have witnessed the beginning of the experiment 3 years before are dubiously contemplating the glass box, and 1 or 2 of the reporters, unawed by the personages in the lab, 7 of whom are plus men, seem to find much covert amusement in the whole affair. Finally, when all of the preparations are completed and Ralph's 2 assistants have stationed themselves beside the glass box containing the body, the young scientist addresses the gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, you have come here to witness the final phase of my dog experiment. The preliminary phases you observed 3 years ago this day in this room. The seals you put in place are intact, and you may see them for yourselves, untouched as you left them. As I explained 3 years ago, I formulated the theory that a well-preserved animal, though dead to all intents and purposes, could be revived or new life given to it, provided the body had not undergone decomposition, and also provided that none of the organs had suffered in the least. I found that the rare gas permag-atol would conserve animal tissue and animal organs indefinitely when it is used in conjunction with a weak solution of radium K bromide mixed with antiseptic salts. No part of an animal body would undergo any change for many years. I also found that the body would have to be kept at a fixed temperature, and this was possible by the use of radium K alloy. I am now ready to prove my theory. He signals to his assistants, and with their aid, the seals are broken and the glass cover of the case removed. A profound silence prevails. Every eye is focused on the dog, and many of those present find it difficult to remain seated. Ralph coolly and deliberately frees the dog of his bandages and attachments and places him on an operating table in plain view of everyone. From then on, he and his aides move rapidly. First, the dead dog's arteries are opened and the radium K-bromide solution is drained off. Then fresh blood from a blood bank is brought in, and in a very few seconds, one of the arteries has been laid open and connected to the dead dog's main artery. In less than a minute, the dog's body is full of fresh, warm blood, and immediately efforts are made to bring the dog back to life. Oxygen is freely administered, and the heart is artificially pulsated by means of an electrical vibratory apparatus. At the same time, one of the assistants has trained a vacuum tube on the dog's head, and its cathode shoots a powerful F9 ray into the animal's brain. No sooner has these rays, which are among the most powerful brain stimulants, been trained on the dog than he begins to show weak signs of life. One of the hind legs is drawn up with a jerk as if in a fit. Then comes the faint heave of the chest, followed by a weak attempt to breathe. A few minutes later, the body seems to contract and a shiver runs through it from head to tail. A deep respiration follows and the animal opens its eyes as if awakening from a deep, long sleep. In a few minutes more, the dog is lying on its paws and licking up milk when Ralph turns to the group and says, "Gentlemen, the experiment is concluded, and I believe the condition of the animal at this moment establishes sufficient proof of my theory." As the reporters eagerly dash from the lab to get to the nearest telephone in order to communicate the news to the waiting world, the scientists gather around Ralph, and one of them, a white-haired old man considered to be the dean of the plus men, voices the sentiment of the entire group. "Ralph 124C41 plus, this is one of the greatest gifts that science has brought to humanity. From what you have done with a dog, you can do with a human being. I only regret for myself that you had not lived and conducted this experiment when I was a young man, that I may have from time to time lived in suspended animation from century to century and from generation to generation, and it will now be possible for human beings to do this." The vista opened up by the results of the experiment in the minds of the other scientists has dazed them, and it is with the most perfunctory goodbyes that they leave the scene of the experiment enveloped with their thoughts of the future. Tired and exhausted by the nervous strain of the afternoon, Ralph, a few minutes later, lays down on his bed for a few hours' rest, but as he closes his eyes, there comes to him a vivid picture of a pair of warm, dark eyes, radiating admiration, trust, and something more that aroused an emotion he has never experienced before. End of chapter 3.